once again, from the National News Center, here is Lloyd Robertson.
DNA, that's scientific shorthand for the genetic structure that determines the nature of all living things. It's as distinct, as unique as a fingerprint, and it's become a powerful weapon in the war on crime. It's also opened whole new lines of inquiry. Jim O'Connell talks to the DNA sleuths who talk to the animals, who give them the answers that put people behind bars.
Something's fishy in Newfoundland, and this genetic detective is nailing the culprits. Meet Snowball the cat. He helped convict his master of murder. And in Nova Scotia, it took wild ducks to bring down the Birdman of Shelburne. 3 cases with a common thread, animal DNA. It's putting humans behind bars. Our detective story begins here along the southern coast of Newfoundland, one of the last places you'd ever expect to find a crime problem. But ever since the federal government banned cod fishing a few years back, the shady business of poaching has flourished. Illegal fishing has never been an easy crime to prosecute because the evidence is often dumped in the sea. But now researchers have a secret weapon to nail the poachers. The poachers on this boat were caught in the act by surveillance cameras, and fishery officials tried to move in to make an arrest. But when Officer Wayne Mayo made his approach, he didn't get a very warm reception from one of the fishermen.
He was in a very angered, rage state. He was tearing stuff off the boat. He was cursing, swearing, and ranting. "You're not seizing this boat. You're not seizing this boat." He shouted at me with the thing held up over his head. "If you touch this boat," he swore, "I'll break your whatever arms, okay?"
The cod squad knew the poachers had already dumped their illegal catch overboard. But when Officer Mayo pulled up to the boat, he spotted an old Javex bottle stained with blood. So he decided to grab it.
I shook the screw, and it appeared to me that the blood hadn't coagulated yet. It was still in a jellied state. So to me, I automatically figured, well, that must be cod blood.
After that, all hell broke loose. The poachers made a run for it, and determined to destroy the evidence, one of them set their boat on fire and jumped overboard.
I was astounded. I was bewildered. For about 25, 30 seconds, I didn't know what had happened.
It's difficult to prosecute poachers when there's no boat to search for evidence. But Officer Mayo still had that single drop of blood safely stored in his trusty DNA gathering kit. To determine if it was in fact cod blood, he brought it to this top-secret DNA lab in St. John's and turned it over to Sylvia Bartlett, a soft-spoken scientific sleuth with a reputation for busting bad guys. By examining the genetic makeup of the blood and comparing it with a computer bank of samples, Sylvia was able to prove almost immediately that the blood was fresh and that it did come from codfish. That was the hard evidence needed to convict the poachers.
What would you say to people who are considering poaching, who
Don't.
think they may...
Don't. It's not worth it.
They're going to get caught?
Yes.
You're going to catch them?
Well, eventually.
The animal DNA trail has led us to this federal penitentiary in Springhill, Nova Scotia. It's a bizarre murder mystery involving a man convicted of killing his ex-wife partly on evidence from a very unlikely witness. He was fingered by the family cat. Doug Beamish is serving 18 years for second-degree murder, and it was the root of a single cat hair that helped put him away.
What do you think of the science of being convicted with a cat hair?
Makes you wonder, right? As far as I'm concerned, DNA evidence is, especially in this part of the country, is too easily accepted.
Remain on this side of the road, and then you'll cross as one group towards the bus.
After one of the largest searches in maritime history, police in Prince Edward Island discovered the bludgeoned body of Beamish's estranged wife in a shallow grave. They also discovered a leather jacket stained with the victim's blood, and in the lining of the jacket were a number of white cat hairs, which became critical evidence. It just so happened Beamish had a white cat, this cat, named Snowball. So investigators put 2 and 2 together and sent off hair samples from Snowball and the jacket for DNA testing.
Like, my opinion of the cat is that he's the same as me. He's an innocent victim in this thing. right? He had nothing to do with this thing. They went to the house with a warrant. They took him in, did all kinds of, took the blood out of him, ripped the hairs out of him and everything else. Right? For nothing. Why? Right? What did the cat have to do with it?
The odds of matching the hairs from the jacket with the cat were estimated at 1 in 45 million. Dr. John Way, a DNA consultant on the case, says when the results came back positive, the scientific finger was pointed directly at the suspect.
They did 10 tests, and the hair from the coat matched Snowball at all 10 tests.
And so Doug Beamish remains behind bars, filing appeals in an effort to have his conviction overturned. Despite what experts believe was indisputable evidence, he maintains his innocence.
You know, people watching this are going to have one question. Did you kill your ex-wife?
No, I did not kill my ex-wife. We have 3 children together, and I wouldn't do that to their mother. I couldn't. It's impossible.
The jury didn't buy it. As for Snowball, after putting his genetic paw print on the case, he's living a quiet life somewhere in Prince Edward Island. Next stop, Shelburne, Nova Scotia, a tranquil area rich in wildlife and natural beauty. This was the scene of a most unusual criminal investigation involving RCMP, wildlife, and natural resources officers. On a remote island, investigators set a trap to catch a thief who was stealing and profiting from wild duck eggs, which are strictly protected by law. Charles Dolby led the investigative team.
The operation was called Operation Sunny Side Up. It initially started as an egg operation, an egging, and then it went into the live birds.
It was a big humbug over nothing.
Enter the Birdman of Shelburne, Manus Hemian, a lifelong bird lover who was messing with the law and heading for trouble.
Oh, I got 6 months.
6 months in jail.
6 months in jail for fun, for what I've done all my life, having fun doing.
What Manus did was this. He went out and bought 2 adult eider ducks, which was perfectly legal because he went through the proper channels and had the required permits. But then he started stealing wild duck eggs from conservation areas and pretending they were the offspring of his legitimate ducks. It was all a money-making scam, and Wildlife Officer Lou Thompson was determined to stop it.
He may well be a bird lover, but most bird lovers I know wouldn't do that.
To catch the small-time poacher, investigators set up an elaborate sting operation. Undercover officers offered Manus about $1,000 for a bunch of his wild stolen ducks, and he accepted the cash.
The ones that they bought from you were what?
They were the wild. They were ones I took out of the wild.
Out of the wild. So
Yeah.
that was against the law.
Yeah.
And did you know that?
Yeah.
The law was moving in fast. In a dramatic bust in the middle of the night, a small army of officers swept in and raided Manus's house, apprehended the stunned suspect, and rounded up the ducks.
It's just like a child and with his hand in a cookie jar. You know, his hand is in there and you ask him, did you take the cookie? And he says no, and you know, it's the same type of reaction.
To win the case, investigators had to prove that the legitimate ducks were not related to the wild stolen ducks, a bizarre paternity case without precedent. Then a brainstorm. Inspired by the O.J. Simpson trial, they decided to try DNA testing, and it worked. It proved that most of the ducks were not related. Manus might as well have been caught red-handed with his fingers in the nest.
When you knew there was DNA testing involved, did you know you were finished?
Yeah. I knew we was finished in because you would have to get a special lawyer to fight it, and you know what that would cost you. Thousands and thousands of dollars to go in to fight something like that.
Once again, animal DNA had helped solve the crime, adding yet another new dimension to forensic science. As for the Birdman of Shelburne, well, Manus is still drawn to his feathered friends, but he's a bit disillusioned. 6 months in jail can do that to a poacher.
So will you ever deal with eider ducks again?
No, I have nothing to do with wild birds anymore. I'm done with it. The fun is out of it.